Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
Welcome to Connecting the Dots. It's Thursday, June 5th, 2025.
And we're coming to you from Snarful Solutions Group, right here in Sacramento, California.
Good to be here.
Okay.
Quick look outside our window here in Sacramento. Beautiful day. Sunny, high hitting about 87 Fahrenheit. Pretty nice.
Yeah, can't complain here. Elsewhere, though, bit more action. Central and eastern U.S. keep an eye out for severe thunderstorms. They're moving east from the southern high plains.
Where are they headed?
Looks like the Tennessee and lower Ohio valleys, maybe stretching into the Carolinas by Saturday. If you're near the coast, North Carolina especially, tropical moisture means some heavy rains likely. So, stay safe out there.
Good heads up. All right, shifting over to the markets. Looking back at yesterday's close, that was Wednesday, June 4th, the Dow Jones finished at 424.27.74.
And the S&P 500 closed up at 509.70.81.
Okay, so here on Connecting the Dots, what we do, powered by Snarful Solutions Group, is basically cut through the noise.
Exactly. We use our curated info, like today we're pulling from our tech article report, to find the top, say, 3 tech stories of the day.
And the goal isn't just to tell you the news, it's to connect it, to your everyday life. How does this stuff actually matter to you?
Right. Help you make sense of it all without getting lost in the weeds.
So let's jump into our first deep dive. Huge news for gamers today. The Nintendo Switch 2. It's finally here. Launched today, June 5th.
Yeah, this has been like the rumor mill running for years. Huge anticipation.
And it's launching alongside a pretty major title too, right?
Yeah. Mario Kart World, the next big Mario Kart. So a big 1-2 punch from Nintendo.
Okay, key question for anyone with an original Switch.
Yeah.
What about my old games?
Good news, mostly. It is backwards compatible with original Switch games. Now, the sources mentioned there might be, a few compatibility hiccups with some really old or obscure stuff.
But Nintendo's trying to help with that.
Yeah, they're offering free software updates for some of those original games. The idea is just to make them play smoother, better on the new Switch 2 hardware.
Okay, and how easy is that update process?
Super simple, apparently. Just connect the Switch 2 to the internet, make sure the console system software is up to date, then start your old game. If there's an update available, it should just prompt you to download it. Easy peasy.
Gotcha. So that covers playing your old library. But they're also doing something new. Switch 2 editions. What's that about?
Right. So these are different from the free compatibility updates. Think of them more like enhanced versions or remasters built specifically for the Switch 2.
So better graphics, maybe new features?
Exactly. Visual improvements, maybe new modes, extra content, that kind of thing. They're available physically, on a cartridge or digitally from the eShop.
And which games are getting this treatment right away?
The sources say a few big ones are ready today. The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and also Civilization VII. Those Switch 2 editions are available now. Others are planned for later this year.
Okay, so concrete example, Breath of the Wild Switch 2 edition. What's different?
Reports say faster load times, which, is huge for that game.
Yeah.
Plus an extra save slot, higher definition visuals, just overall smoother gameplay.
Yeah.
Tangible stuff you'll actually notice.
Right. Now, you mentioned free updates and these paid editions. How does that work if I already own, say, Breath of the Wild on the original Switch?
Good question. That's where upgrade packs come in. The free update just ensures the original game runs okay. The upgrade pack is something you buy if you want to get all the enhancements of the Switch 2 edition without buying the whole new edition at full price.
Okay, so it's a paid path to the better version if you own the old one. What kind of cost are we talking for these packs?
Sources say it could be up to like $80 for some games generally, which sounds steep. But Nintendo America's VP, Bill Trinan, specifically clarified that for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, the upgrade packs are just $9.99 each.
Oh, okay. That's much more reasonable. $10 is palatable.
Definitely. And even better, if you subscribe to Nintendo Switch Online plus the expansion pack, those 2 Zelda upgrade packs are actually included, free for subscribers.
Nice perk. All right, let's broaden out. The big decision for a lot of people is going to be new Switch 2, or maybe grab a discounted Switch OLED.
Yeah, because the Switch 2 is launching at $449.99. The OLED was $349.99, but you're seeing it drop, right?
Right.
Sometimes down to like $299.99 in the US, maybe even lower in the UK.
So you could be saving $150, maybe more, by sticking with the OLED. What does that extra money for the Switch 2 get you? Let's unpack the comparison.
Okay, so physically the Switch 2 feels a bit more premium, according to reports. Heavier, taller, smoother matte finish compared to the OLED's kind of cheaper plastic feel.
And the screen, that's usually a big factor.
It is. Switch 2 has a larger 7.9-inch LCD. The OLED is 7 inches. Big difference is resolution, though. Switch 2 is full HD 1080p in handheld.
Compared to the OLED's 720p handheld.
Right. And docked, the Switch 2 can go up to 4K, while the OLED maxes out at 1080p. Plus, the Switch 2 screen can hit a 120 Hz refresh rate handheld.
Smoother motion.
Potentially, yeah. Especially in fast games. OLED is capped at 60 Hz. Switch 2 also adds HDR10 support for better colors and contrast.
Okay, sounds like a clear win for the Switch 2 display in terms of specs, but
yeah, the OLED still has that OLED advantage, those perfect blacks, that amazing contrast. For some people, that visual pop is just better, even at lower resolution.
And the other big OLED win, battery life.
Despite a smaller battery size on paper, that OLED screen is just more efficient. You're looking at maybe 4.5 to 9 hours on the OLED versus 2 to 6.5 hours on the Switch 2. So that's a big difference for portable play.
Definitely. What about controls and connections?
Switch 2 has new magnetic Joy-Cons, upgraded HD Rumble 2, adds mouse controls, which is interesting, and a game chat button. OLED uses the older rail system Joy-Cons. Switch 2 gets 2 USB-C ports. OLED has one.
And storage. Always running out of space.
Big jump on Switch 2. 256 GB internal, up from 64 GB on the OLED. Both take microSD cards up to 2 TB, but the Switch 2 supports the newer, faster microSD Express format.
Which means faster loading from the card, potentially.
Exactly. Those cards are pricier right now.
And the biggest factor for many, performance in games.
Yeah, Switch 2 is way more powerful. We're talking AI upscaling, ray tracing support, G-Sync, 12 GBs of RAM. It means faster loads, running more demanding games. Like Cyberpunk 2077 is apparently runnable.
Whoa, okay. That's impressive for a handheld.
It really is. And crucially, the Switch 2 plays original Switch games, plus it will get its own exclusive, more demanding games in the future. The OLED plays the current library, but won't get those Switch 2 exclusives.
So, connecting this to the listener, how do you decide?
It really boils down to priorities, doesn't it?
Right.
If price is your main concern, you mostly play older games,
Yeah.
and you love that OLED screen quality and need the longest battery life, the OLED, especially discounted, is still a fantastic value.
But
if you want the best performance, the higher resolution, the smoother 120 Hz option, future-proofing for new games, faster storage, basically the top-tier experience, the Switch 2 is where it's at. The sources kind of summarize it. OLED wins price, battery. Switch 2 wins comfort, display specs, controls, connections, games, future, performance, storage. Overall winner.
Yeah.
Switch 2, but OLED's the smart value pick.
makes sense. Okay, shifting gears completely. Let's talk privacy. Apple put out an updated transparency report yesterday.
Yeah, covering the first half of 2024. And it shines a light on something most people probably don't think about much. Government requests for data about push notifications.
Those little pop-up alerts on our phones, what kind of data are we talking about?
It's mostly metadata. Basically, information that links a specific app notification to your device and your Apple ID using something called a push token. It's how Apple knows where to send the alert.
And what can governments learn just from that token?
Potentially, according to the sources, things like the account holder's name, email, maybe even physical address tied to the Apple ID.
Okay, that's more than I might have guessed.
But here's the kicker, something Senator Ron Wyden brought attention to last year. If the app developer doesn't encrypt the content of the notification itself before it goes through Apple's system.
Then the actual message text could be included too.
Potentially, yes. Even if the app uses end-to-end encryption for its main messages, if the notification preview isn't also encrypted by default, that snippet could be exposed in the data provided to governments. Apple just delivers it. They don't decrypt it.
Wow. Okay, so what are the trends? Are governments asking for this more?
Globally, yes. Requests for push token data nearly doubled from H1 2023 to H1 2024, went from 158 up to 277.
But is Apple handing it over more?
Actually, no. Their approval rate dropped globally from 77% down to 59%.
Interesting. What about here in the US?
The US trend is even more dramatic. US requests surged more than doubled from 48 to 129 in that same period.
Okay.
But Apple's approval rate for those US requests absolutely plummeted. From 88%, nearly 9 out of 10, down to just 28%. Less than 3 out of 10 approved in the first half of this year.
That's a massive shift. Why the change at?
Policy change at Apple. Since December 2023, They require a judge's order, not just a subpoena, to release this push notification data. It's a higher legal standard.
Ah, that explains the drop in compliance, aligning with their privacy stance.
Seems like it. Push notifications are tricky because they have to go through Apple's servers. This report is Apple's way of showing what's happening and that they're trying to enforce legal processes.
Did the report mention other data requests?
Yeah, quickly, U.S. requests for general device data were over 12,000, covering about 43,000 devices, with Apple complying 85% of the time. China made fewer requests but covered way more devices, over 365,000, and Apple complied 95% of the time there.
And what about those geofence warrants?
They've pretty much vanished from Apple's U.S. report. Went from 16 requests in H1 2023 down to just 1 in H1 2024, and Apple never complied with any of them anyway. Speculation is investigators might be getting that kind of location data elsewhere now.
So for the average person listening, what can you do about this? How does this connect back?
Well, awareness is the first step, right? Knowing this metadata exists. Practical steps. Go into your phone's settings under notifications. Turn off alerts for apps you don't really need. Fewer notifications means fewer push tokens generated.
Okay, good tip.
And for sensitive apps like messaging or banking, consider changing the preview setting. Settings notifications show previews. Set it to when unlocked or never.
How does that help with this data request issue?
It stops the actual message content appearing on your lock screen, and crucially, it might prevent that content snippet from being included in the data if the app developer hasn't encrypted the notification itself. Just reduces your exposure a bit, helps you manage that digital footprint. Got it. Okay, third and final topic for today's deep dive. Another piece of hardware launched today, the OnePlus Pad 3.
Yeah, OnePlus is making a big play in the high-end Android tablet space with this one, taking aim directly at Samsung's Galaxy Tab S series.
And looking at the specs, they seem to be swinging for the fences. Tell me about the display.
It's huge. 13.2-inch LCD. And it's fast 144 Hz refresh rate, which should make everything look super smooth. High resolution too, 392 by 2400 pixels. And a slightly unusual 7.5 aspect ratio, kind of taller, maybe better for reading or documents.
Brightness.
Processor, pretty bright, up to 900 nits peak, and it's running the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite chip. That's top-tier flagship performance, so gaming, heavy multitasking should handle it easily.
What about RAM and storage for the US model?
Good specs there, too. 12 GB of fast LPDDR5X RAM and 256 GB of the fastest UFS 4.0 storage, so apps should load instantly.
Battery, got to power that big, fast screen.
Big battery, 12,140 milliFi, supports really fast 80W charging, and they include the charger, which is nice.
Oh, that is nice. No wireless charging, though. No wireless.
Yeah.
And based on some comparisons, runtime might be in the 2 to 6.5 hour range. Depends heavily on usage, obviously. That screen and chip can drink power.
Connectivity, any cellular option.
Latest Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 5.4.
Yeah.
But yeah, sources say Wi-Fi only. No cellular model mentioned for the US, which might be a drawback for some. Standard USB-C port.
Okay. What else stands out? Audio, cameras, design.
They're touting the Audio 8 speakers, apparently. Four woofers, 4 tweeters. Could sound really good. Cameras are pretty standard tablet fare. 13MP rear, 8MP front. Design-wise, it's very slim, under 6mm metal unibody. Comes in a storm blue color. Weighs about 675.
Software and updates. That's often a concern with Android tablets.
Looks promising here. Ships with Oxygen OS 15, which is based on Android 15, and OnePlus is committing to 3 major Android OS updates, so up to Android 18 and 6 years of security updates. That's really solid longevity.
Any special software features?
Yeah, it includes some AI stuff, AI Writer, Summarize, Google's Circle to Search, Gemini integration, and an upgraded multitasking system called Open Canvas, designed for that big screen.
Accessories are separate though, right?
Mm-hmm. Keyboard with trackpad is $200. Folio case is $50. The Stylo 2 pen is $100. So decking it out adds up.
And the price of the tablet itself in the US?
$699.99 for that 12GB 25x6GB model. Pre-orders started today, run till July 7th. Open sales start July 8th.
Any deals for pre-ordering?
Yeah, pretty good ones on the OnePlus site. You get to pick 2 free accessories in the keyboard, case, or stylus, plus a $100 trade-in bonus and a 10% student discount option. Those bundles definitely soften the $700 price.
Okay, sounds like a powerhouse.
Yeah.
But is there a catch? The sources usually find something.
There is, and it's kind of a big one, according to the reviews. No secure biometrics.
Meaning no fingerprint scanner.
Exactly. It only uses camera-based face unlock. And on Android, that's generally not secure enough for things like banking apps or password managers. You'll be typing your PIN a lot for secure stuff.
Ouch. On a $700 flagship tablet. That feels like a major oversight.
Yeah, the sources call it a crying shame. Really impacts the convenience for secure tasks.
So connecting this back to the listener, who should consider this tablet?
It's clearly for someone who wants top-tier Android performance, maybe for gaming or heavy multitasking, and really values that huge high refresh rate screen for media or productivity. The AI features and long software support are pluses too.
But you have to weigh that against the $700 price plus accessories and that really inconvenient lack of a fingerprint scanner for secure apps.
Exactly. It's a trade-off. High power and great screen versus cost and that biometric security hassle. If you don't need the absolute latest power, the older OnePlus Pad 2 is cheaper, but you miss out on the Pad 3's upgrades.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the ground we covered in this deep dive.
We started with the Nintendo Switch 2 launched today, comparing it head-to-head with the Switch OLED, looking at the specs, the price, the upgrades, to help you figure out which console might make more sense for your gaming habits and budget.
Then we shifted to digital privacy, unpacking Apple's latest transparency report. We focused on those government requests for push notification data, what that metadata can reveal, and importantly, how even notification content could potentially be exposed, plus some tips on managing your settings.
And finally, we looked at the brand new OnePlus Pad 3 Android tablet. All those high-end specs, the huge screen, the fast performance, the long software support, but also that glaring lack of a fingerprint scanner, which is a key thing to consider at its $700 price point.
Right. 3 different stories, but all connecting back to decisions you might make about technology, your privacy, and the devices you use every day.
It's fascinating to see the power increasing in these devices, like the Switch 2 and Pad 3, but also the growing complexity around the data they generate, like with those push notifications. It highlights that ongoing tension, doesn't it, between capability, convenience, and security or privacy.
Definitely something to keep thinking about.
We are here to help here at Snarful, so reach out on our website if you have any more questions.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.